Hello, and welcome to today's WTA webinar from Teleport to Network Service Provider, the search for tomorrow's business model, presented by Kratos. My name is Randall Barney. I'm the Executive Director for the World Teleport Association. What we do every day is advocate for the interests of teleport operators, as well as promoting the excellence in their operations, their technology, and their business practices. Our webinar today is based on a report that is available on our website of the same title, and we'll be talking about that in just a moment. WTA's research reports are guided by WTA's Technology Advisory Board. The Technology Advisory Board was formed to address the rising challenges and opportunities that our leading members feel are really changing the nature of the game. The purpose of the board is to give them guidance. What are the most important advances you need to keep your eye on? And what are some of the appropriate technologies for the kind of needs you have? Membership of the advisory board is open to industry patron and leader members. If you want more information on this, send an email to me at rbarney@worldteleport.org. Our technology advisory board members are Comtech, Hughes, Kratos, Network Innovations Advanced Networks, and Nexat. After this introduction, we're going to cover some key insights from the published report, and then we'll launch into a discussion with today's panelists. I would like to thank the sponsor of this report and webinar, Kratos. I would also like to thank our industry leader members who make possible our research reports and webinars. They're Eutelsat, Intelsat, Kratos, and SES. Key takeaways from the report. The satellite industry is undergoing a historic transformation. It is driven largely by the emergence of global low latency services from LEO constellations that have dramatically shrunk bandwidth prices while opening new applications and bringing more attention to the industry overall. Led by SpaceX's 7,000 satellite Starlink constellation, the LEO operators are cutting into the mobility and broadband markets, and traditional GEO operators have looked to for growth amid the continued steady decline of their traditional broadcast markets. With margins eroding, teleports that have traditionally provided GEO uplink and downlink services are increasingly moving into the managed network services business, offering multi-path, multi-orbit solutions in collaboration with other industry players, including erstwhile competitors. They are being enabled by emerging technologies, including software-defined networking, virtualization, and the software and technology standards that pull everything together. The industry is still in the early stages of this journey, and the pace of change is not uniform among operators, but the trend is clear. So some of the key takeaways: managed services and partnerships. The teleport industry is rapidly evolving as more operators move into the business of providing managed solutions that bundle connectivity from satellites in different orbits along with terrestrial-based services. The primary drivers of this emergence of the LEO operators led by Starlink, which has massively disrupted the entire satellite communications industry, along with the embrace of software-defined networking, virtualization, and other technologies that are making it easier to partner with different companies. Operators say partnerships with give them expanded reach and access to more capabilities are now all but mandatory to be competitive in the new environment. Enduring value of infrastructure. Moving into managed services is the primary, but not the sole evolutionary path available to teleport operators. Those in strategically advantageous locations with access to abundant low-cost power, connectivity to the terrestrial grid, and plenty of floor space can operate on an infrastructure as a service model. These operators essentially lease out infrastructure to the managed service providers, including satellite operators, with many adding cloud computing capabilities, effectively morphing into data centers with satellite connectivity. Expanding markets with LEO. The biggest growth opportunities for teleport operators stem from the fact that the LEO services are expanding existing markets and opening new ones for satellite services. An extreme example, there is now credible discussion about using satellite as a backup for terrestrial fiber, something one industry executive said would have been unheard of just a few years ago. Adding value to resale. Most, but not all, of the operators that contributed to this report are reselling LEO services and looking to bundle those with GEO and terrestrial services to provide flexible, resilient solutions. Network operators say they can provide other value-added enhancements to LEO services such as cybersecurity, but opinions vary widely on whether bundled solutions are a pathway to real growth, or as some hope, or just a way to hang on to an increasingly LEO-dominated world. And finally, the human factor. One of the biggest challenges for operators as they seek to implement managed services featuring multi-orbit, multi-path connectivity is finding the right people. Engineers now must be versed not only in satellite and radio frequency, but also internet protocol technology, which undergirds the new business model. Even as ground segment operators virtualize to minimize costly network hardware, multiple interviewees cited the continued importance of field engineering teams to troubleshoot at remote sites. So I'd like to introduce our panelists today. They are Marcus Bickler, Director at Kratos, Will Mudge, EVP and CTO of Speedcast, Alessandro Carracci, SVP of Satellite at Telespazio, and Zubair Karachi, Vice President Technical of SailSat. Welcome, everyone. How are teleport operators adapting their business models in response to disruption caused by LEO constellations like Starlink? And Will, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
I love it. Thanks, Randall. Well done on the introductions, and good morning or good day to everyone. I'll channel my inner Australian and go with the good day. I think it's been a significant disruption with the LEO constellations. I would go so far as to say I think it's opened up new markets a bit. And it's certainly from our side of things as a managed service provider, not just a teleport operator, it's given us some more opportunities as we look through it. But it's certainly a bit of a challenge when you look at it from just the teleport perspective. I think from an adaptation standpoint, there's a discussion later on this week. I was telling Randall about it for AI and ML. I see a lot of the value add, like is mentioned in the report, where you're looking at how do you help improve these services? How do you get everybody to the same bar that Starlink is at? And I really think that's part of that opportunity on how do we, continue to drive improvement as teleports to offer better services to our customers to be able to compete on a more even scale with Starlink. Then maybe it's a good way to segue to somebody else, see what else they have to add to that. I'm sure Zubair has an interesting insight.
Sure. Zubair, go ahead. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you. So, yeah, for sure, Starlink is disrupting the market, and as Hesat, as a satellite operator, but also a teleport operator, is affected, and we're trying to adapt ourselves by actually moving more into the value chain and providing more than only uplink provider. So we are getting into the services more in detail. Also in cybersecurity, we are offering more security to special customers that we have. And we are working on strategic alliances with others so that we can offer global coverage. Because currently, as a regional satellite operator or teleport with only one location or two, we cannot offer the global services that many customers are demanding now. And many customers, they want to focus on their core business and outsource not only the satellite part, but also the IT part. So we have to do actually alliances and partnership with other industries. And of course, we are investing a lot now in software-defined infrastructure, either software SD-WAN or software-defined radios, in order to be flexible on the long run, but also in order to reduce the costs.
Great. Alessandro?
Yeah, let me start saying that Telespazio can be considered the oldest satellite service provider of the world. And so in our life, we needed to change a lot of times. And in these last years, since very high throughput geo satellites and then LEO satellites are part of our market, we needed to make a further change. We have a chain of teleports, but we are also a service provider. And the first thing that we have started doing is to change the markets we are targeting. So first, we decided that everything was just connectivity, so very easily to be commoditized was not anymore our market. So today, the first point was to choose some, we call them market of choice, that at the end are markets where customers will lose a lot of money or lives if they don't have a reliable solution. And on the other side, we have tried to move toward an orchestration of what is available, not only uplinking what we sell, but also integrating what we do with what exists coming from other solutions. Can be LEO, can be other services, can be terrestrial networks. So basically today, I think that the race will be in being able to create the so-called best perceived quality. That means to provide a service that will fit with the needs of a specific market or a specific customer. This is what we do. And then we will speak more in this panel that this implies a lot of changes in the industrial organization, in the knowledge we need to have, in the people we need to have, in the investments we have to do. So basically, there is now a journey from our former position to the new one that is quite amazing, because at the end, we see that the results and margin are good still.
Great. And finally, Marcus.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and thanks, Randall, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, as the technology provider in this group, I would say what Super, Alessandro, and Will have already mentioned mirrors what we are seeing from across our customer base. It's a continuous and ongoing look and search for new revenue opportunities, for new margin opportunities or higher margin opportunities, driven by the already mentioned factors, but also now what does it mean for us as a technology provider? And it means that for us there's an ever-increasing need to support our customers in finding new opportunities. It means new business models, it means new integrations, it means a whole slate of new requirements coming our way to enable Will, Alessandro, and Super and others to do what they need to do here. Put together new innovative services as quickly and efficiently as possible, because what we cannot afford to do is idle at this point. Time is a luxury that we do not have.
Okay, great. What role are managed services and multi-orbit, multi-path network solutions playing in helping teleports remain competitive amid shrinking geo margins? Will, do you want to take that one again first?
Yeah, thanks, Randall. Certainly we're seeing the multi-orbit play out with our customer base. You know, the most common being like Starlink and a geo option, or OneWeb, Starlink, geo, LTE. You know, there's many different paths in playing how that service plays to an individual customer. I think as we continue to see vertical integration, OneWeb, Amazon, Starlink, even Intelsat SES, where they have their own separate VSAT networks, I think you'll see more of that integration. I think how the teleports play in that particular market gets a little bit more challenging. I think when you look at how does a teleport support these, well, you have to have the disparate systems available in your teleport to be able to do it. It starts to infer redundancy on a reliance, excuse me, on your ground network, right? Your MPLS infrastructure. You have to tie into all these different locations and be able to bring this data back. I think you said SD-WAN in the introduction, and I think a couple of us have said it here, and it really is part of it. You need to be able to bring that data from these different locations to your customers at the end of the day. And it's making a teleport more than just a downlink facility for satellites, be it LEO, MEO, or GEO, but also bringing this data together to them from many different sources. Because we're already tied in with customers today, providing these VSAT services, it's an ideal location to be able to bring these other resources into your customer base at those locations.
Great. Alessandro or Zavera, do you have anything to add to that?
If I may, let me at this point, our experience is in our teleport, there are our services, and we host most of the satellite operators, GEO and LEO, as landing stations, no? So this is an advantage because let me say that the integration of different orbits or different satellite services is something that sometimes can be more robust when everything is landing in your premises. But on top of this, it's clear that once you design a service, now you have a lot more of possibility for creating this service. You can put together ingredients that are very different one from the other in terms of latency, in terms of cost, in terms of reliability, in terms of a lot of things, in terms of sovereignty too, because this is another aspect that in some markets becomes more and more important. And basically, so orchestration and monitoring, cloud integration, edge computing, cybersecurity, compliance with standards, SLAs, but also logistic and on-field activities. These are all the things that together can create a winning service. It's clear that the heart of this part is still the teleport, but not as the factory where you build your service, but where as a brain where you manage and you operate whatever is given to a customer.
Okay, and Marcus, from a technology provider perspective, how are multipath and multi-orbit networks playing a role in helping teleports remain competitive?
So I like how Alessandro put it. It gives you the ability to craft a custom service that addresses specific customer needs. You can pick and choose your components, your paths, and put together a tailored offering. On the one hand, super complicated, difficult. You need the right people, the right infrastructure, the right competencies. But if you can get it to work, the performance that you can offer your customer is fantastic. And you really tie your customer closer and closer to you as you take a bigger chunk of responsibility for not just pure bandwidth, but also quality of experience and ever more important, cybersecurity. And you become a one-stop shop for your customer. It really increases your chances to retain those customers over time and increase your margins there. But there's a big if there. It does not come for free. There is a hill to climb. And from our perspective as a technology vendor, it's our job to assist our customers in pushing them up that hill.
I can also add, sorry, Randa, that actually now many customers, they would like to have end-to-end SLAs. And actually, I just repeat again what was just said. So this is the concept of turnkey connectivity and also like integrated cloud. So all what was said before. So the key is end-to-end SLAs and one-stop shop.
Okay, great. Partnerships are becoming essential. What makes a successful partnership in today's teleport ecosystem? And how are competitors becoming collaborators? Who wants to take that first?
Okay, well, I can take some
Go ahead.
parts where.
Go ahead, Zubair.
Okay, so just like easy example. So currently we are cooperating between like teleport and satellite operators to share infrastructure and share spectrum, because we are regional in both teleport and satellite, and we need actually to work global for many operators and to expand to other regions. So, and we are actually sharing spectrum and infrastructure. So, and sometimes you have a teleport operator which is very powerful in one country or other countries because of regulatory reasons. And as you just mentioned, field services, you cannot offer them everywhere. So you need actually to partner with other teleport operators or service providers in order to offer those field services.
Great. Alessandro, partnerships?
Let me start from this point. 20 years ago, I started working in space in satcom. At that time, it was very clear who was my competitor, who was my provider, who was my customer. Let me say today, this is really unclear, because one day you deal with a satellite operator, the day after you compete with them. And so I think that this is the message is that you need to try to create partnership with all the players of the value chain, trying to take the best from the integration of the capabilities of each player you deal with. Let me say that it's clear that this is true when you have complementary capabilities. For us, it's very important to have the best value for money when we buy connectivity from a satellite operator or from another player. Let me say that I think it is something I can say most of the time. I have businesses in place with all the people around this panel, and this is normal. It's clear that to open this partnership, you need to have a flexible mindset first, a flexible commercial model. So you need to be able to take the good part from a cooperation. You need to share a vision. So it's very important when we change role at each occasion, it's very important that this is a fair approach, and on the other side, a shared vision of what this partnership is taking to. And but let me say that this is very important. I like to use this comparison. I think that Telespazio and all the satellite service providers are like a restaurant. And basically, the rest of the community can be the ingredients that you have in your kitchen, and then you can create your dishes, your recipes. It's clear that if you want to have the best recipe, you need to have the best ingredients, or you have to buy them at the best way. So this is, let me say, something that, in my opinion, gives an idea of how it's important to be aligned with the rest of the community.
Okay, and Will, as a truly global teleport operator, how are you viewing partnerships? And
Well, I think
go ahead.
Zubair's and Alessandro's main points are spot on, right? There's some things we all do really well, right? If you go to the Middle East, it's hard to beat Zubair, right? They've got a really great opportunity. They got a really great solution as you go into that. And, you know, the economics to go in and try to build something separate and compete doesn't make sense when you have good relationships. And the ability to cloud those lines anymore, right? Like Alessandro was saying, very rarely do we just see a pure supplier customer relationship between the businesses anymore. Oftentimes you're buying here, you're supplying here, and it becomes more of a partnership where you're working together with it. And I think our industry has become much more open to this concept as time has grown. Starlink, I think, has galvanized us into doing that even better, right? We're really starting to work together in a much more fulsome way, which I think is beneficial for our customers at the end of the day and how we go through these businesses. Now we're still in the midst of change in our industry, right? We still need Intelsat SES to complete their acquisitions. We still need to figure out how do we keep GEO salient in a LEO world, and that's going to, I think there's some changes there that are needed to be able to continue to do that. But at the same time, it's these relationships that we build between all of us and how we have those partnerships and recognizing everyone's strengths and how to leverage those in the best way possible to supply the customers. It's really going to save our industry, in my opinion. I think it's more about the people than it is about the service.
Great. Before I get to my next question, we have some audience questions. A couple of these are going to be addressed in some future questions, so I'm not ignoring you. But if you do have questions, please keep adding them to the Q&A panel on the Zoom chat. So with some teleport operators evolving into infrastructure as service providers, what strategic advantages such as geography, power, and space matter most? Will you kind of address that a little bit, Zubair? You want to take that?
Yeah, it's like geography, as Will said. Okay, currently teleport operators, they will not venture and go create a new teleport. So they will cooperate. So it means that the teleports, which they are existing in a specific country, they will have the advantage for like having others coming to them. So it's a differentiator, but the main differentiator for the operator location is the businesses around it. So if you have, for example, Media City, you have an ecosystem for companies which are willing to have like a drilling company, oil and gas company. So you will develop services for those oil and gas. So geography is one of the differentiators, but you have also, if you have power grid, which is allowing you to have like cheap power, it will allow you actually to develop data centers. You can have hosting for antennas, which are like now with the constellations, you will have huge antenna farms. So you need a huge power, and the power should be less expensive. So, and of course, you need to have space and scalability. So if your teleport is located outside of town, of course, you can grow faster and much easier without causing interference to the neighbors. So all those items, they are going to matter a lot for the teleport operators to be able to grow and actually bring in new business.
Okay, great. Alessandro?
Well, if I want to summarize the most important, let's say, strategic advantages in the facilities of a teleport, let me say it's clear. First is the reliability, the today's power, and security and cybersecurity on one side. The second point is to be able to work very well in terms of latency. So position, let me say, the connection to data center, to cables, and so on has to be optimal in this point. And last but not least, orbital visibility, because at the end, if you want to host someone in particular with the LEO operator, you need to have a very good visibility to allow that everything will work without any trouble. Let me say these are the most important point in my opinion.
Okay. And Will, you addressed almost all of this. Do you have anything to add to that one?
I might build on it a little bit, and we have another question into the really long one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all right if I could do kind of both in one, because they're really
Sure.
kind of the same. So the question that we had in was about bonding links together, right? And doing the bonding. And to Alessandro's point, if you bond the links, you're trying to send packets down both links at the same time. You really need to watch your latency closely. But with modern SD-WAN technology, you can do better. You don't have to bond it. You don't have to send packets down both or split them down links. What we do now is by sessions. So you can put a session down this link and then a different session down another link, and you can leverage both links to their fullest extent. There's some limitations. We're working on some of those, limitations to get past them as you go through it, but this is done today, right? So when you look at the non-uniform multi-orbit, turns out not to be a problem, right? When you can run an active link on an SD-WAN and you're doing it on a session basis, it doesn't matter that their latencies are different. In fact, within a certain range, they're just fine. So if you're using LEOs and LTE, you can run them all at the same time. If you're doing GEO and LEO, that causes a bit of a problem. But that's where you can pick and choose what data goes down a GEO link versus a LEO link. So this is where layer 7, doing it at the application layer, really makes a big difference. GEO is a much more stable link because it's not using kind of these LTE or these cellular waveforms for all the changing out. So you see a very robust, almost terrestrial-like link with just a high latency that goes along with it. So this works very well for some data compared to trying to put it across a more erratic or a more jitter-prone link in your LEO or your LTE links. So both these questions are good questions, but both of them have answers already in the marketplace where we're actively doing this today with our customers. I think last I looked, and this was a number of months ago, I think we were at 19 different links combined all together to bring service to a single site for a single customer. So you can imagine multiple Starlinks, multiple OneWebs, multiple LTEs, multiple microwaves, GEO, of course, in there as well. And you're bringing all of these links together and you're putting data down, all of them at the same time to try to really bring that experience to a customer, whether it's availability or bandwidth or specific application steering. All of it is possible with today's technology. So it really helps bring these solutions together. So sorry, a bit more in depth one there, but hopefully I got through 2 questions in one.
Thank you, Will. And as for that long question, we will be addressing the workforce part of that question in just a little bit. So how are LEO services expanding the addressable market for satellite communications, and what new verticals or use cases are proving most promising? Marcus, you want to start with there?
Sure. So I would say that obviously Starlink has driven a massive increase in the addressable market for basic broadband connectivity. Unprecedented scale, super successful, obviously. What's interesting to see is also how much of an impact it has made on mobility, especially lower-end mobility in the maritime sector. And I would say it remains to be seen there if that proves to be, let's say, a sort of entry drug for a lot of these customers now. They get the basic connectivity that they previously did not have at a cost point that they can now afford. Will they now get hooked on it? Will they look for ever more advanced solutions to manage an entire fleet, bring in more cybersecurity, as Will mentioned? Will they look for more advanced capabilities that then brings them to, well, Alessandro are in touch with Super looking for those solutions? I think that's going to be interesting to see. Looking forward, I'm really curious now to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years in 2 specific sectors where I'm looking for the next disruption. I think we have yet to see the impact of direct-to-device connectivity. I'm particularly curious about the IoT sector there. I think that is ripe for disruption. And I'm also curious with Kuiper now bringing up more and more satellites and eventually going into production. I'm curious to see what they will end up doing, for example, in both enterprise connectivity, but also in media, where I think they have a very strong place. So we are talking about how can we deal with the massive disruption that has come our way already. I would argue a lot more is coming, and it's going to be an exciting wave to ride.
Okay. Alessandro, Zubair, new verticals?
First of all, I fully agree with Marcus that LEO are disruptive, but we have just seen the first half of the match. And the second half will take much more changes. Now, coming to your question, at the end, if we want to summarize, LEO are giving first a lower latency, and high speeds. Second, are global, so it's very easy to have a global coverage. And the third are cost effective. So these are the reason why the market has grown a lot. Once we are going to come back to something that will not remain just in the hands of the LEO, in my opinion, there is a big opportunity, and the big opportunity is to start working on this 95% of the market we have never touched, that is the market of the connected customers that will require backup. At the end, with the low latency, the backup works very well also with applications. And basically through a satellite services that is backupping a terrestrial network, you have two independent networks. And so at the end, the reliability is super high. So basically, I think that after many years where we have failed in providing backup, if not tailoring a lot of the solution, so the market was really a niche, I think that in the future, this could become a much bigger market. And considering that we are now targeting 95% of the companies and not the 5%, we can understand what kind of numbers or figures this could generate. This is, in my opinion, what is still missing and is not so impossible to happen.
Zubair or Will, new verticals?
I confirm what Marcus and Alessandro mentioned, and I just would like to add that actually it's not only that Starlink or the LEO, they are now like very competitive in the broadband access, but also geographically. So you have many areas of the world that they were not very well covered by the satellite, by the geo satellites. Now they are covered. So the island nations, they are covered very well. And you have also many sub-Saharan Africa that they start actually to be more connected, and this bringing economy of scale, which will make cheaper the satellite connectivity in general, but also the terminal. I think we see now the cost of the terminal is coming down, which was one of the challenges actually for the geo satellite operators and the geo connectivity actually to, let's say, to be broadened everywhere. So the LEO, they have now very good like actually impact by lowering the price at the ground segment, but also for the capacity in general.
Yeah, I think I would add to that. I don't necessarily agree with the coverage piece of it. I think the geos have had coverage, and I think they would, you know, if you look at Viasat-3, for example, there's plenty of coverage and capacity when you go through that, and HTS and everything else. But I think Zubair hit it on the head. The terminal cost and its performance is incredible. And we can't discount the experience that the LEO provides. I always like the anecdote of, you know, we're a managed service provider. We've been doing it for years. I've got a lot of engineers that work on this on a daily basis. Historically, we had and have terminals, VSAT terminals, and you make the engineers work on it, right? You've got to let them work through that and use that at their house so that they can see what it's like for a customer and understand that relationship. And very few of them ever really leave the VSAT on as their permanent service, right? They do their work, they get used to it, and then they get back to their house and they're like, oh, thank goodness I've got back to my home internet, and now it's back to normal. But I bought Starlink, right? Like I have it, and I would use it as my house internet just as soon as I would my regular house internet, and I wouldn't complain. Like it's literally saved me here a couple of times where we've had outages on my internet, and then I can switch over to Starlink. How many of us have ever done that with any of the VSATs that we've used over the years? And we've all used a lot, right? And when you look at it from that perspective, good low-cost terminal, really a fantastic service that has it, good global coverage, the right price point. It's the product that we've needed as satellite technology purveyors. And it really is increasing our market share across all the markets. Whether you use your home internet for IPTV, like Marcus was saying, I think that's a real one, or you use it for your business, or you're on a cruise ship and you're trying to do business on their terminal links. It all makes it so much easier with today's technology as compared to just 5 years ago. So there really is a pretty big step change, and it really does open that market up for us for our end customer base, which is great, because as we can expand from our existing customer base of VSAT customers, you can get into, like Zubair, you said Africa, right? There's great coverage in Africa on VSAT, really fantastic. We've been doing service stuff for a long time. You can get a lot of bandwidth into it. The cost isn't there, right? You don't have that price point that you need to hit for Africa for the service. But the LEO is getting there, right? Like you're really seeing it offset by that, and it's putting pressure on the GEO providers to be able to provide something similar. So when we look at it from the perspective, from the lens of, I got into this business because I believe in the commercialization of space. I believe in communication is a key for our customers, and that's what I want to enable them. I truly believe that. I think the LEO has really helped us get into that piece of it, and you're going to see it proliferate more, right? You see more and more use cases come up. We all the time see customers that we could have never reached out and provided the level of service that we could provide today at the cost point that we can. And that part to me is exciting. Does it create challenges for us in our markets? Yeah, of course it does. But every time we have a technology step, we see these same challenges. For those old enough to remember, whenever the Epic satellites and the VHTS first started coming out, like it was monumental ground shift, everything was going to change. And we keep seeing these phrases, but the reality is that each time it gets better, and these are challenges for us to overcome, and they should be taken with excitement, and I believe they should, and they are.
All right, great. Will, sticking with you, are bundled solutions, LEO, GEO, and terrestrial, a pathway to growth or a defensive play in a LEO-dominated environment? And how can operators differentiate their offerings?
I mean, defensive means that, in my opinion, the word defensive is you're guarding your customer base, you're guarding your market. And maybe you bundle those solutions to do that, to guard that market. But I think the reality is we don't look at it as guarding. We look at it as enabling, right? When you look at how do you better enable your customers, you want to bring all those things together. And if you can enable your customers, you save your customers. So defensive, I don't know, defensive suggests that we are threatened by it. And I don't think we all feel threatened by it. I think we just have to figure out how to bring it into our portfolios in a way that benefits us commercially as well. And I think that's the real challenge when you look at it. So certainly, I think it's a pathway to growth. Certainly, I think it's a pathway to enable our customers. And just like we're seeing in the questions, the adding SD-WAN, adding the multipath, bringing all of these solutions together really does bring that enablement, right? Which obviously saves our customers for us at the end of the day. So as far as how can we differentiate these offerings, I think that goes back to the value that we each bring. We know our markets, we know our areas, we know how to work in the Middle East, right? Not the easiest area to work in, going through some significant challenges. How do you bring that to your customers? When you look at Telespacio and the customers they serve, I mean, it's another very unique customer base. And there's not many people that really understand how that customer base works. And being able to bring that flavor to your customers as you bring these solutions to them is what makes the difference, in my opinion.
Alessandro, do you want to expand on that?
Let me say that, in my opinion, this multipath and orchestration and the value of these, if it is a defensive or is a market growth. Let me start from this. I think that our customers, we have a challenge because our customers, they desire to have satellite communication as a commodity from one side. So their desire is tomorrow to deal with something that is very similar to terrestrial networks and to many other IT things they manage. So it's clear that or we will show that this orchestration and bundled solutions will be something that is more reliable, more cost-effective, more tailored on the customer needs. Otherwise, they will choose to have 1 or 2 or 3 constellations installed on their rigs on their vessels, in their airplanes, and this will be the end of the game for the teleport operators and for the satellite service providers. Now,
Great.
this is a challenge. How to win this challenge? To give a value added. How is this value added? First, in my opinion, we are always to consider that a service is not just connectivity. Connectivity is one part. On-field activities, the SLAs, the management of any fault, the store that you have available for your customer, all these things are part of the same service. On the connectivity, it's very important to understand priorities of our customers, because at the end, they are looking for the best value for money. And the best value for money is when you create something that gives them the highest perceived quality at the same cost. And to do this, the orchestration is one of the vital parts of the solution. And we are trying now to work more and more with AI, machine learning, to create optimized routing, optimized precedence, optimized management of anything, or to detect issues on the service before the customer will see it. And this is another point that is very important. If you are going to knock at their door saying, hey guys, maybe you have a problem, before they feel this problem, is very important. Last but not least, it's clear that all these topics are very important if the value that is on your link is very high. And the other point is that the segmentation of the customers is another vital point of this race to, let's say, not to survive, but to take the very good things coming from the new solutions and to take the very good things that we have learned in decades of activities in the satellite community.
Okay, great. We're running short on time, so Marcus, I want to move on to the next question with you. As virtualization and software-defined networking reshape ground operations, what technologies are proving most transformative for teleport operators?
It's a good question. So I would say let's start with what problem are we trying to solve, and then look for the right technologies to help us solve those. I'd say at the end of the day, we're trying to provide secure, reliable connectivity at a high performance with a high amount of observability. We want to be able to launch it or provision it fast. We want to be able to change it at a moment's notice. And we want to do it as well, as cheaply as possible, if we're being honest. So what technologies do we have to help us there? Virtualization certainly is one of the building blocks of this journey. And I think it came up in one of the questions. How do we deal with the complexity? How do we train people? How do we find the right people to manage all of this? I think virtualization is one of the building blocks to help us get to where we need to be. It allows us to unify our hardware footprint, to unify our operations, our cybersecurity activities. It allows us to simplify our logistics and our training. And so I think it's a basic enabler. It also ties into, I think, some of the items that Alessandro has talked about, the orchestration and also the observability, being able to build complex systems. I think, well, what was it, 19 links that you're bonding together? There's a lot of stuff going on there. And in order to make that possible, in order to support these types of scenarios and architectures, you're going to need automated orchestration. You're going to need a virtualized infrastructure and a standardized set of servers and operating systems and architectures and cloud. You're going to need good monitoring tools. You're going to need all of that to make sure your customer gets the service they're expecting and be proactive about it. I would also say, I agree with what Will is saying. These things exist today. SD-WAN is, for most parts, a solved problem. And it's kind of interesting. I was working with a We're obviously working with a lot of global operators and also regional operators. And recently I saw one of them going through a selection process, a vendor selection process for SD-WAN solutions. And the spreadsheet they went through contained something like 8 or 9 serious contenders, good, solid SD-WAN solutions from, I think it was 9 established vendors that would all do the job. And it's fantastic. You can really choose the right tool for the right job. But of course, it comes at the cost of complexity. And that's something that we need to then, again, figure out how to address.
Okay, and staying with you, Marcus, terrestrial telecom carriers often resist integrating satellite because of perceived incompatibilities and lack of standards. How is the industry overcoming this barrier, and are standards like Diffie or IFOF helping?
So I think that was actually one of the questions in the chat, so I'm glad that we got to this. I would certainly say yes, satellite has a bit of a reputation as the red-haired stepchild of connectivity, but we've taken steps to align ourselves a lot closer with the terrestrial carriers. So you mentioned Diffie. So Diffie, I'd say, is more of an, let's say, satellite-based internal standard that allows us to simplify our operations, our architecture, enable new architectures, and it goes, I would say, beyond SATCOM. It's also a very powerful standard for Earth observation and other domain and other use cases. But specifically now for aligning with the terrestrial carriers, we do see a lot of adoption now of terrestrial standards such as MEF, Carrier Ethernet, the TM4 APIs for orchestration. And by that adoption, I do mean, well, we are obviously supporting, we're a big fan of it, but also Intelsat is very active there, SES is very active, Telesat, Rivada. So we're certainly seeing a move by the SATCOM industry specifically to align themselves more closely with the terrestrial operators. You see more and more of them at the various conferences and workshops. So that's cool to see, and it's been received quite positively by the terrestrial world. And of course, this continues now with 5G NTN, which is a whole different ballgame in terms of complexity, of course.
Okay, great. We touched on this a little bit. How is the demand for hybrid skill sets blending RF satellite and IP networking reshaping recruitment and training strategies for teleport and ground segment teams? Will, do you want to start with that?
Sure. I think we certainly see either a retraining of our workforce or an augmentation of our workforce, because the recruitment strategy is less than your recruitment strategy is built to fit your needs, right? And ultimately, we are seeing the need for both at teleports at this point. So already we're looking at how do we augment, how do we train, how do we recruit. So it's kind of I don't know. I think the question is kind of answering itself in that you need both. You have to hire for both, and you have to train for both. I think the question is how willing are people to do it? And our experience that we see is they're very willing. I think they're all technology driven. They all like something new that they can work on, and they've been working with satellite for years. So our experience is this has been a very fruitful engagement where you can either augment your staff or train them accordingly.
Zubair?
Yeah, okay, just confirm what Will said. And yeah, before we had like engineers for RF separately, for IP and the administration separately. And now we are trying actually to have RF engineers which they have IP experience and even software. I see also there is even a question in the chat about AI. So we are moving into predictive maintenance using AI. So to reduce the downtime for the antennas and for other infrastructures. And actually our engineers, they should also be versed in how not to develop the models, but at least to feed the models and to operate them so that to be able actually to be more efficient in their job.
Great. Alessandro, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, in Telespazio we have a lot of missions, and we have a very long longevity of our colleagues in terms of they stay with us for decades, let's say. So it's clear that if from one side we need new knowledge, and so we are hiring new engineers, what Will pointed out before is very important. For us, it's very important to train our colleagues in order to have this very deep knowledge of the existing and past technologies that meets the new technologies to create something that always remain at the state of the art, but reliable at the same time. So the challenge is very important to be able to stimulate these colleagues that sometimes are older than me to start again to learn something new. And this is vital for us. Otherwise, we will be out of the market soon, but it doesn't happen so far.
Great. And Will, you were on my AI panel at the satellite show back in March. Do you want to expand just real quickly on the AI piece?
Sure. And I think it kind of builds on what Marcus was saying too. Kind of the most important thing, the transformative thing that you can do is become a data-driven business. You don't necessarily have to add a lot of different tools, right? You don't really have to do a lot different. But if you can capture the weather at your teleport, sunshine, rain, wind, okay, probably you're already capturing that data. It's got to be in a database. Then you need to marry that up to the direction your antenna is pointing, how big it is, what's the load on the motors, right? This is tying into that question, how you can start to monitor your teleport. You've got to have that base data available before you can do any machine learning or AI. You've got to be able to point it and say, I want you to look at the wind versus this motor loading. And then that's going to be able to tell us how much stress is on the motor over time, and we can start to map and do different things with it. That's how you get to the cool stuff. But it all starts with getting all of your data into something that you can point machine learning towards. And it's not Excel. Trying to point everything over to an Excel file is not a machine learning and AI philosophy. So the more you can start to build towards a tool set or a database, the more you're going to be able to grow your business in a faster fashion. I'll just add that I think monitoring is great. We can do network changes with AI today. We're already working on this one as well. Control of a teleport system, I would probably be a little bit more leery of, but I know there's a couple of companies out there looking at it relative to like Earth observation and scheduling so that they can point an antenna at a particular one. And that's a really great application for it. But when you're looking at like a GeoVSAT world, I don't know that it applies on the control side too much. I think I might be a little bit nervous to give over amplifier power control to a machine without understanding it pretty significantly. That makes sense.
Great. Yes. On WTA, we'll be doing a report that'll delve deeper into AI in the teleport early 2026. So keep an eye out for that. With that, we are at the hour. So I would like to thank my panelists and make sure that you download the full report from the WTA website, free for members. Coming up, we'll be at IBC in September, WSBW right after that. If you're there and want to meet, shoot me an email. Upcoming reports, cyber threats in your own backyard will be coming out in September. And in November, serving the software-defined satellite market of the future. And I believe Kratos will also be involved in that. So again, thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randall. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.